Okay, so my name is Martin Arevalo. If you want the Spanish pronunciation, is Martin Arevalo. And I'm 36 years old. I've been practicing Kendo for about almost 17 years. Actually, in January, it's my 17th anniversary in Kendoversary. And also I practice Jaido, even though I don't have a rank in Jaido. I practice it more like a hobby because I'm really dedicated to Kendo right now because of a lot of things. So yeah, I'm the captain of the national team, of the Peruvian national team, and I'm the president of the Peruvian National Federation. My childhood, actually, I because of my family was part of a migration that happens after the Second World War from Europe. They are from they were from Yugoslavia, now Croatia, and they came here to Peru to avoid the World War because they were part of a concentration camp. They were in the concentration camp. My grandparents, so they escaped. So my family has this very disciplined way because of how was the situation with the World War and in the concentration camp. So my mom tried to raise me in that way. She was very strict, like academically and personally, she was very strict. And I grew up being a very strict person within myself. So when I was about 7 years old, actually, let's start back. Around 4 years old, when I was 4 years old, my cousin was a national champion of judo here in Peru. And he invited me to one of the classes. I was little, I was small, and I was really afraid of judo because I was seeing these grown-up people throwing themselves all around mats. And he was like, no, I don't want to do this. Because I was a kid. It was 4 years. I was 4 years old, so it was very hard. But then when I was about 7 years old, 8 years old, my mom just put me in a karate class because of course every single kid here in this country, and I don't know if in Canada is the same, you have to do karate. It's part of being a kid. So I practiced karate for about 5 years, almost 6 years. I had third kyu in karate. But when I was in high school, I abandoned a little bit of the karate because I wanted to spend more time with my friends. And since I'm kind of like a tall guy, I'm around, in centimeters, I'm 185. In inches is about 6'1". So I joined the basketball team because all my friends were in the basketball team, and I practiced basketball all my high school years, and then the first year in college. But because of college and everything was getting harder academically, I stopped doing basketball because I had a call how do you call that? Words in English. I had a scholarship because of basketball, but since I was kind of good in my studies, I got another scholarship because of achievements. So I just gave up basketball, but I needed to do some sport because all my life I did sports. So I started practicing Aikido in my college. There was a Aikido sensei in my college.
Just
See,
wondering, if
yeah.
you got an academic scholarship, why did you have to give up basketball? Couldn't you have continued it as like recreation?
Yes and no. I love playing basketball actually, but since I had to achieve a certain GPA, I had to keep to stay in the top because the scholarship for academic achievement is higher, is bigger than the one for sports. So it was like, do I practice 6 hours a day basketball or do I study those 6 hours a day? So the decision was obvious. I need to study more, and it was okay because after I finished college in second place in my class, it was good. So I started doing some Aikido just as a sport. And after 6 months to 1 year of doing Aikido, I started practicing karate again. I went back to my sensei and started practicing karate. But I had an accident. I broke my wrist, and in a tournament, somebody broke my nose. So I had to stop doing karate. I stopped for 3 months, almost 3 to 4 months. I stopped doing karate, and when I restart doing karate after those 4 months. I was talking with one of my karate friends. He was shodan in karate. I was third kyu in karate, and he told me, "Look, do you know the Peruvian Japanese Association?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's very near my place. I mean, it's like 5 minute walk." And he was like, "There is a martial art there. We have to try that one." And I was like, "What martial art?" "Kendo." "Samurai martial art." "Yes." My God, I need to go there. So I started doing gym there because I actually love doing gym. I love doing some irons, and I started doing gym there just to be nearby the kendo. But I started doing gym in December of 2003 in the Peruvian Japanese Association. And in December, usually the martial arts, they stop doing classes and they just have free practice. So they have free jigeiko. And I was like, I was stunned because of kendo. It was like amazing. The first time you see somebody doing kendo with shinai and the bogu and the kendogi, it was like, I need to do this. But the problem was that there wasn't any classes in that season because of Christmas season actually. So I had to wait until January. So I enrolled to do kendo in January 2004, and I started the first day. I think Monday in January 2004 was the 4th, January the 4th. So I started kendo January the 4th, 2004, and 17 years after that, there you have, I'm here. Of course, I had to stop doing kendo in some periods of my life. First, I was finishing college, so the last year of college I had to stop doing kendo for 1 year because I had to concentrate in my thesis. I had to concentrate in my last courses. After that, when I started working, I had to stop for another year because of work. Work was very hard because I started working as a consultant in Deloitte and Touch, and it is very well known that the big four are very, very hard to work there. So that first year, second year was very hard. And when I started doing my master degree, my sensei said, no, you have to concentrate in your master degree. So the first year you have to get out of the dojo. Don't come here. Don't practice kendo. Go and focus on your studies. And I did that. So in my 17 years of kendo, I had to stop around 3 years, give it or take, because of.
Well, when you think about like doing those consulting jobs, you're one of those where you're flying over to different cities and doing work at like the local companies, and people think that, oh, well, why don't you just find a local dojo there and train there? But like, if you're actually flying for work, you're actually working 12-hour days or something like that,
Yeah.
and not able to do that.
And also you have to take into consideration that Peru is a very centralized country. So almost 90% of things happen in the capital city of Lima. I live in the capital, so Lima. And almost every single Kendo dojo is in Lima. There is only two more dojos that are in a couple of cities of Peru, but almost every single dojo is here in Lima. So if I had to fly to, for example, there is a place to the north of Peru called Trujillo, there is no dojo there. So I had to go there for a couple of projects. So it wasn't possible for me to practice there because there was no dojo there. So I had to come back to Lima and go back to the dojo. It is very hard here in Peru, not because of the geographical differences. We have a lot of geographical differences here in Peru, but it's because it's very centralized. Almost everything happens here in Lima, which is not very good for spreading kendo around Peru.
So I want to go to when you first initially started kendo. It sounds like you were very enthusiastic. This was something when you jumped in, I would just want to do everything. The other thing is you also had a lot of background with your karate and aikido, so you
Right.
probably picked up things very quickly. Now, when we have some experience and we look at beginners that first have talent and have experience, the other very gung-ho, you're like, this person is probably not going to last because they're going to realize that this is a lot of work and all that excitement and all that early learning is suddenly going to plateau. What was your early days like, and did you have that kind of plateau, and what were people thinking about you as a student?
Actually, what I've seen in my kendo history is that there is a lot of people. For example, usually in my dojo, in well, summer season here in Peru starts in December, January, and usually December, January is school holidays. So every January there are a lot of new people in kendo, like a lot of new people. I mean, 30, 40 new people, but usually it it's only one or two stays because kendo is really hard, and we all know kendo is really hard. But not only because kendo is really hard, but people think something different of kendo. Most people here, like most people that start doing kendo, I don't say everybody, but most, they like the Japanese culture of anime, manga, and samurai movies. And when they think about kendo and samurai fight, they think of something different. It's not for them. It's not hard work. It's not training every day. It's not sweating. It's not crying sometimes. It's not depression because you cannot do something right and you want to do you want to do it right. It's more like fun and games. But when they realize it's not fun and games every single day, but it's hard work, some of them they just it's something like they broke inside. It's like, no, I don't want to do this. I thought it was something easier, and you do something, a couple of movements, and I start fighting the first day in kendo. It's not like that. So that's what happened with most people. For me, in my case, since I train different martial arts, and I've been training and doing sports not only in a recreational way, but more of a team way, because I was part of the high school basketball team, and it was really hard. I was part of the college basketball team, and it was really hard. Also, we had to train like a lot. For me, it was normal. It was regular to train hard, to do my best, and to keep going, even though I knew I was a beginner. I knew I was learning, and I understood that there was a experience curve that I need to climb. So for me, it wasn't that different. It was something new that I have to improve, and I'm gonna do my best. And actually, I loved it. It was like love at first sight, and for me right now, it's part of my life. I never thought in the first day that it would be a part of my life, but right now for me, a day without kendo is like a day without air. I cannot breathe without kendo. So for example, I train almost every single day, even though we are in a pandemic situation. And we actually in Peru, there are no dojos operating. All the dojos are closed because of the national situation. But we managed to train in our houses via Zoom, via whatever technological advance we can use. And we train every single day. The proof that I train every single day is that my light, I just broke my light the first day of my training. And it was like 8 months ago, 6 months ago. And I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna fix that light because I'm gonna break it again. So that's it.
So you mentioned that it was tough in the beginning because you graduated, you had to get into work, and you had to take that time off. So how did your life situation change such that you're now able to do kendo more on a regular basis? And then when did you see that becoming something more than just going and learning as a beginner, but like participating in tournaments, being involved in more of the national and then international events?
Well, I think that's a tough one. I think it's part of experience and how you mature as a person to find that balance in your life, that work and personal life balance. That's part of how you grow up as a person, how you experience your life. So for me, Kendo is part of my personal life. No, it's not part of my work. It's my part of my personal life. So I had to balance my work life with my personal life. I have a lot of luck. My bosses usually understood very well that personal life is important for your personal development. And my work field, it's very important to have a very good balance, because if you are stressed, you cannot like produce or deliver as well as you should. So I had a lot of luck because my bosses understand that. Well, they understood that. Right now, it's kind of different because pandemic situations, but they understand. So I was very lucky. And since I was progressing in my career, I started to understand also that I had to work, but I have to live my life. So Kendo is part of that, but my family is part of that also. My girlfriend is part of that also. And every single part of my life is part of that. So I had to to take time out of my work life to do that. That was part of a learning curve in how to be a better person. Of course, Kendo helped a lot because Kendo, it's a very disciplined way of life. So it helped me to discipline my career, to discipline my personal life, to discipline my every single thing I do.
Mhm.
And answering your second question, well, as a beginner, usually you don't participate in anything. You just learn, learn, learn. But I participated in my first tournament around 9 months after I started Kendo. It was my first tournament. Actually, I was wearing men like complete bogu for 2 months. Usually here in my dojo, you get the bogu in parts. First, you get a tare, then do, then kote, after that men. And usually it takes around 4 to 6 months. It depends on how good you develop your kendo skills. Because nobody wants to get hurt. And we don't want people to get hurt in kendo because they will quit kendo. So after people do a correct man, good, you're good for bogu. And I was wearing bogu for 2 months, and my sensei was like, "Yeah, Martin, there is a tournament. You will go to the tournament." And it was my first experience. And in the first round, I went with against the one that was the champion in that tournament, and it was like, "Oh damn, that guy is like Nidan for in that era of kendo, in that period of time. Nidan here in Peru was like, wow, he's Nidan in kendo, amazing, he's a god." So I was against him, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm dead, but I'm gonna do my best. I got the first ippon. I got shodachi against him, and then he was like, nope, and boom, boom, he beat me. But it was a good experience, and actually that marked me in a way that every single experience is good in kendo. You lose, you win, it doesn't matter. What you learn is what it's important in your experience in kendo. So sometimes I rather lose every jigeiko so I can learn something new. Of course, I'm never gonna be like weak in my jigeikos. I'm never gonna go like back and yeah, beat me. No, but if I lose, then I learn something new. And that's how I've been trying to grow in kendo, to keep my kendo going, like learning in every single experience. And actually, the first years in kendo, they were hard because I was learning. But I would say the last 5 years after I passed Yondan and in my way to Godan, and after passing Godan, I would say that these years are the hardest ones, even though I have some rank in Kendo, which is not very high, but it's some rank. I feel that these years, this season, this period of time in my Kendo is the hardest one, because it's just not a physical part of my Kendo. It's not if you're fast, if you are strong, you're gonna be good. It's more a mental situation, mental kendo. So after I passed Yondan, it was like 6 years ago. That was very hard. And after I passed Yondan, I realized that my way in kendo, my do, was gonna be really, really hard from there to now. And every single day that I practice, I realize that it's gonna be very hard. There are hard times ahead, but that's what actually keeps me going. That hardness, that toughness in kendo, that situation is what makes me want to practice more and learn more and improve more and sacrifice myself sometimes to do more kendo and keep learning. And that's why I think I've been trying to travel around the world to learn more, and I've been contacting a lot of people, and I've been making a lot of friends in the kendo community, because I think that's one of the ways you can improve, not only as a kendoka, not only in a physical way, but also in your mental state, the way you do kendo. Because after you achieve some certain rank, I would say Yondan and above, kendo start changing. It stops being a physical sport, a physical martial art, and it starts becoming a more spiritual martial art, a more mental thing. So yeah.
I would love to hear you talk about that, like these purposely going to different places and then seeing what you can learn from each one. Maybe you could maybe just go through the list and saying, why did you choose this place?
Right.
What did you learn from there in terms of kendo? And then
Right.
what did you experience on top of the actual practice from visiting those cities and interacting with those people?
Sure. So let's start maybe with my first kendo trip. My first kendo trip was actually 1 year and a half after I started doing kendo, and it was to Aruba. I visited Velasquez Sensei because there was a tournament there, and my sensei was the there. He was the captain of the Peruvian Kendo team. And 15 years ago, 16 years ago, the Peruvian Kendo Federation, there wasn't a Peruvian Kendo Federation, so everything wasn't that organized. And since he was the sensei of the Peruvian Japanese Association, he was a manager of the Peruvian Kendo everything. So he said, he chose 4 members, and he trained us for a couple of months, and he told us, okay, we're gonna go to this tournament in Aruba, so get ready. And we were like, what? So that was my first kendo trip. I met a lot of people, and that was maybe the first time I realized kendo is not about what you do in your dojo, but about the community. And I learned the real meaning of kokenchiai. So I started traveling by myself and intentionally after my Yonda, and that's 2014, because of 2 reasons. One, I had more money because of my work. Before, I couldn't travel a lot because of that. And second, because I realized that just staying in one place, especially, for example, Peru is not, we don't have very high ranking senseis here. I am one of the highest ranked kendokas here. The highest rank is Godan, and there are only 3 Godans. It's my sensei, the sensei of other dojo is Anna, and me, and that's it. We have 3 Godans here, Peruvian Godans, and a fourth one that is a visitor. Actually, he's staying here. He's from California and Japan, and he's staying here for 3 years. But that's it, because of work. But it's just 4 Godans here in Peru, and there is no higher rank here. So when I achieved Yondan, I realized if I wanted to get better, and not only get better for me, but to take the knowledge and just show it, or teach it to every single other person here in Peru, other Kenshi here in Peru, I had to start investing in that. So I realized I had to plan that. I had to start traveling. And one of the first places I traveled was to New Jersey to visit Henry Lee Sensei. And that happened because in the dojo of Henry, in Henry Lee's dojo, there is a Peruvian there. And he's a good friend of us because sometimes he traveled back to Peru just to visit his family, and he practiced with us. So in one of those trips, he brought Henry here to Peru just to go to Machu Picchu and do some sightseeing. And he came to practice to our dojo. It was amazing. For me, it was the first time I saw somebody as strong as Henry, and it was like, I need to go there. So I decided that next year, after I passed jodan, I decided next year I'm gonna go there. So I talked to Javier, I talked to Henry, and he was like, Sensei, can I go to your dojo? And I was like, yes, of course, you're welcome here. And I went to visit him for a couple of weeks. I trained there. He took me to some New York City dojos, and then I met Kato Sensei. Kato Sensei was beside my sensei and beside another sensei that comes from Japan once a year. His name is Furuya Sensei. He's Nanada. Beside those senseis that are, I would say, the main reason I do kendo, I would say Kato Sensei is one of the senseis that mark my way in kendo really, really, really hard. So I met Kato Sensei in 2015, and then in 2016 he invited me to his summer seminar, his summer camp. I went there and I met a lot of people from all United States. And then after that I went to Canada because of work related, but Henry contacted me with Kamata Sensei, and I went to Etobicoke Kendo Club. Then I start traveling almost once or twice a year, mainly to the USA because I had the contacts there, to New Jersey, New York, and Houston because one of my best friends lives in Houston. Actually, I met her because of kendo, her and her husband. That's Shamina Chan from Houston Keishikan, and Mark Sensei, Mark Kirsten Sensei. He's part of the USA Kendo Federation. And I met them. It was immediately clicked, and we became best friends. So she's one of my best friends, and I visited her 2 years ago, I would say. But one of my Peruvian friends here in Peru, she got a scholarship to go to Japan, and she studied her master's degree in Tsukuba Daigaku, and now she's studying the PhD in Tsukuba Daigaku. So when she went there, she was like, hey, you can come here, you can train here. I'm gonna talk to Koba Sensei. So she contacted us with Koba Sensei and Nabeyama Sensei, and we were invited to Tsukuba Daigaku to train with a team. And that happened in 2017. And after that first visit, we go every single year. Me and one of my best friends from the Peruvian Kendo team, we go every single year to Tsukuba Daigaku to train. That, after Kato Sensei, I would say the experience of training with the Tsukuba Daigaku team, that changed my entire view of kendo. Training in Japan changed everything I knew, learned from kendo, and I restarted every single thing in kendo. I restarted everything. I understood that, of course, they are kids, they are in college, they want to be competitive, but also that there's an underlying thing of correct kendo beneath that competitive eager, I would say, that competitive need. And Koba Sensei talked to us a lot about that. And actually, I remember that I did my Goldan there in Japan. It was in 2018. And I did it in the Ibaraki Kendo Federation. So we were training in scuba before my Godan, and Koda Sensei was like, "Okay, Martin, you're gonna go for Godan. I'm gonna train you." And he was like, he trained me for a week every single day for my Godan. Even taught me kata every single day for my Godan test. So it was amazing. It changed my way of understanding Kendo and doing Kendo, especially because Koda Sensei is, he's one of, for me, is one of the top Kendoka ever. So yeah, that changed the way I do Kendo. That changed the way I see things in life. That changed the way I approach to my students. I approach to people in Kendo. I approach to the Kendo community. And yeah, that's in a very easy way, that's how I started traveling and how that changed my view in Kendo.
So yeah, something like that is amazing for opening up your own eyes into what's possible. You said when you go to the United States and then Canada and then scuba, you could see this other level of kendo that you didn't have access to when you were in Peru. But then eventually you still had to go back to your home country and to your home city. So how did you manage this kind of, you realize you've lost something, you have to bring it back, you have to somehow maintain it while here. And then how do you try to up the level of the country as well, because now that's also a bigger part of your responsibility. How do you think about what you've gained from outside of the country and how do you bring it back in?
Well, I would say that, okay, that's a tough one. I needed to think about how to rethink my way to approach Keiko. After experiences with one of my friends, Franco, he is part of the national team also, and he's part of um, the technical group of the federation. We started thinking how to change the way we do Keiko, because we were doing Keiko until, I would say, 2016, 2017. We were doing Keiko in a very, quotation mark, old way, a very old way of approaching Keiko. And after so many experiences, especially with the Japanese way of doing Keiko and doing Keiko in a college in Japan, we realized that what we were doing wasn't very good, wasn't very appropriate to improve Kendo. It was good to do Kendo as a hobby, and that's good. But we had the idea that we can improve the level of Kendo in Peru. So what we did is we started changing the way we do Keiko, taking the best of what we thought was the best of every single country we visit. What happens is that for me, this is just a point of view, my point of view of how to approach Kendo. You have two ways of approaching Kendo. You have the traditional Japanese way where you have a sensei, a high-ranked sensei, and you follow his steps. You follow whatever your sensei say, and you do Keiko, you do Kendo exactly as your sensei told you. The problem with a country as Peru or mainly Latin America, except Brazil, they live their own Japan. They had a lot of nanadans there. But in Peru, we have 3 godans. That's our highest rank. So we don't have a sensei. We don't have, well, actually, I have a sensei, but now we are the same rank. So we don't have a high rank sensei you can follow your steps. You have to rethink how you do Keiko. We actually had to thought a lot about how to improve our Keiko. That was very hard. So since we couldn't follow the Japanese way, what we realized is that, okay, we understand that the Japanese way of doing Keiko is following the steps of your sensei, but since we don't have a high ranked sensei, we don't have anybody to follow. And we are meeting a lot of sensei, a lot of high ranked sensei. For example, Kato sensei, the Hachidan from USA. And we meet Koda sensei and Nabeyama sensei, Sakai sensei. And for example, Franco, he's a Nito practitioner. So he knows everybody from from Idaho, of course, but he chose Sato Sensei from Japan as his sensei. And of course, I met Sato Sensei is an amazing person. And so we met a lot of senseis that have different way of approaching kendo, different way of doing kendo. What we realize is that, okay, we cannot follow one way because we don't have one way. We have to improve, choosing what we think is the best of everyone. And if we are wrong, we're gonna fix it. So we're gonna try it in ourselves, and if it works, amazing, we're gonna teach it. So we thought a lot of how to improve Keiko, and what we did is we made a menu, a Keiko menu, from everything we learned from United States, from Canada, from Japan, from wherever we went, from Brazil, and we made a Keiko menu, and we started doing that every single day. Every single day was almost the same keiko with some variations in Kihon, some variations in, some days there were oikomi, some days there were noikomi, some days there was kata, some days there wasn't kata. And I think it worked. The level in Peru started going up again. So how we figure out that this was working? First of all, because people was doing well in Shinsa. That's one of the first things you notice is like, okay, we have more godans, amazing. We have more yondans, amazing. It's working. And then, of course, in the competitive stage, Peru had a very good competitive kendo in 2007, I would say, but then it was going down, 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 down. So last Latin America Championship, we end up in third place, women team and men's team. So we realized that what we are doing is good. So we have to learn and we have to understand what we are not doing good from this tournament, from the Shinsa, from whatever we are doing, and improve it. So last year we started a new program of improving, thanks to our coach, of course. Our coach is this guy from California, that actually from Japan. His name is Kitagaito Ryuma. And he was a very important piece in our development, not because he had different ideas. He trained in, of course, he's from Gardena Dojo, but he also trained in Keio University. So he had a lot of ideas, but they were very similar to what we learned from Tsukuba and from United States. So what we had there was a new piece in our puzzle that just made everything fit perfectly. So it was like, yeah, you're training like that? Yes, I train like that. So amazing. Let's start training everybody like that. So that first year, which was 2018, with our coach was amazing. Our training in 2019 was very good, but COVID happened and we had to stop everything.
Yeah, and the World Championships would have been coming up next year, was it?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, all a mess. But so anyways, I found that really interesting, what you were saying about you had to take these different approaches and then adapt it to yourself. And I find that even in these other countries like Brazil or Canada or Japan, like dojo to dojo, you would see different approaches too, based on the personality of the members and whatever. So what I'm interested in is actually, if someone were to watch the Peruvian national team and say, oh, this is how they do Keiko, this is how they do Shiai, what part of that would be linked to the Peruvian people and the culture and the stuff like that? Like you can see, oh, Japan is very strict. They have very hierarchical kind of culture, Confucianism, that kind of stuff, where you respect that above. And then you might have another country where it's like the States is very open in that stuff, depending if there's a Japanese teacher as the head of the dojo. But what part of, do you think, Peruvian culture and Peruvian people mix into your type of kendo, your style of keiko?
Okay, so as a kendoka, we have to understand the Japanese culture and apply the Japanese culture in our dojo training. For example, every time we go to the dojo, we start acting like Japanese because Kendo is Japanese at least. So everything is really ordered. We have the ranking and we have the hierarchic structure. So sensei, senpais, and kohais, that's very Japanese, and the dojo is like that. But as soon as keiko is over, we act as a family because Latin America people is very very close together. We like hugging, we like to spend time together, and we act as a family, and that's what makes our team. I think it's not different from other teams because I know every single team in Latin America, they act like a family, but I think that's what differentiates. I don't know if that happens in every single country in the world, but our national team acts like a family every single day. It's like we have a messaging group and we talk every single day, like, are you okay, how are you doing, blah blah blah, whatever thing. Have you seen the last movie of whatever. It's not just kendo, it's about ourselves, it's about our life, it's about how we manage to stay together. And that's what we learned in the, I would say, last 4 years, that just doing kendo, just doing Japanese, just doing is not enough. We have to act like we know how to act like a family. We have to still be together. We have to. Our coach always says, you have to sleep together, you have to eat together, you have to shower together, you have to do everything together, and that's what it's keeping us as a team. And there are a lot of things of the national Peruvian national team, and you will see that in the next World Championship. Actually, the Latin America people here in the Latin America Championship, they are used to that because we are usually the same in here. But next World Championship in 2022 is going to be our first World Championship, and the Peruvian national team has a little things that are very unique to them. For example, for team fights, we usually wear white. We go as, for example, the National Guard in the Imperial Guard in Japan. We do the same. We usually wear white for the completely white for the team fights, and we have a do that is special just for the national team, and we wear the same do, every single one of us. Women's team, men's teams, we have the same do. So those little things keep us together. We see each other like, yes, this is the Peruvian national team, and we are a family. We don't care what you think. We are a family, and we're gonna go up. So that's what it's keeping us together. I would say that's a some little things that are different or special in the Peruvian Kendo team.
Well, certainly when you look at a lot of national teams or even other sports, they're usually just choosing the best athletes all across the country. So they might not be from the same city or even the same time zone. So it's it's unlikely that they'll generate that type of relationship. But like what I'm hearing is you even have a WhatsApp group or messaging group where you're not just talking about kendo. Is that true? Like you're talking about anything else, like
Anything.
movies or
Yeah, that's something that we are not just a sports team. We're a family. We care about each other. We talk about whatever we want to talk about, anything.
Mm.
And of course, we drink together. That's very important. That's very important part of kendo.
Yeah. Drinking together leads to showering together, leads to sleeping together.
Of course. That sounds kind of weird, but that's true.
Okay, so out of all these years that you've had, like you talked about some really great experiences, whether it's training in Japan, whether it's competing as a member of a national team, is there one event that really sticks out in your memory that, like, if you were to, let's say there's a new beginner joining your dojo and they're like, I don't know, if I come to practice, what can I get to? Like, what is there that I can look forward to that would be an amazing experience, not just as an athlete, but as a person? What example?
Yeah, you know that almost nobody asks about personal experience. They're usually They are like, oh, how is training, or how, when can I compete, or when will I be able to fight? But nobody usually asks about the personal experience, what else there is in kendo besides kendo. That's very weird. Here in Peru, nobody ever asked me about that. But if somebody eventually asked me what's beside just doing kendo and competing, what's there for me, what's something memorable for me, I would say meeting a lot of people, um, creating this sense of community, that it's not in your country, or only in your country, but it goes beyond the borders of your country. And I really mean that when I say my best friend is not from Peru, it's from the United States, and we practice kendo, and that's it. The one I mean, the kendo family, the kendo community is so broad, and it's so amazing everywhere, that I had experiences where I went somewhere. For example, in 2012, I went to Seattle, Washington, Seattle, for a convention, for a gaming convention. That was the first convention I was going. And it was like, yes, gaming convention, because I'm a gamer. And I just sent an email to the Seattle Kendo Car, and I was like, yeah, I practice kendo here in Peru, and I'm gonna be there for just a couple of days, and I really wanted to practice with you guys, but I won't be able to bring my bogu, so I don't know if I can go and just look at practice and just stare there and watch the entire practice. And the sensei was like, yeah, you can come here, I'm gonna borrow you a bogu, you're not staying out there watching, you're gonna practice. And I was like, yes. So every single time, for example, and that really marked me, because every single time somebody asked me, hey, I know you don't know me, but I'm from some place and I practice kendo, and it's like, yeah, do you have some place to stay? You can stay in my place. You want to practice kendo? You don't bring anything, I'm gonna give you everything, just come. You can stay here in my place if you don't want to spend money in hotels. Yeah, we're gonna go practice kendo every single day, don't worry about anything. And it happened more than a couple of times. And that for me is very important, the sense of community, the sense of kendo family. I don't care if I don't know you, you are part of my family because you are a kendoka. That's enough for me. I don't need to know you. I know that you're a kendoka, you are part of my family. I know you as a brother, even though I don't know you, but you are my brother, and that's it.
Yeah, that's a great answer, because that's exactly what I would say too. Like it's so weird that you can grow up in a city where so many people are just like you in a same type of situation, yet you can find people that understand you at a deeper level halfway across the world, with only meeting them like a couple times, or even just having practiced one or two times, and then you're just like,
Right.
okay, we connect. So to wrap up these interviews, I like to ask some like rapid fire questions, some short ones that help
Sure.
us, because we're all dedicated practitioners. We can hear the passion in it. We all have very interesting experiences, but we also want to get to know the person behind
Sure.
the men, if you want to say.
Right, 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 right.
So I have some questions prepared, but you already brought up one thing that I want to get into is, what does it mean to be a gamer, and what do you play? What is the gamer part of your life involve?
What happens is that I'm an 80s kid. I was born in the 80s. So for me, in that time, the Atari was the first thing I played, and it was amazing. You know, my parents were like, don't play so many games, they're gonna fry your brains. But I grew up with that. I I got to adulthood playing games. So for me, it's totally normal to have a gaming computer and play games. And I'm into RPGs, FPS games. I really play a lot of games. Whatever is good, I play. And a lot of my friends, I mean, people from that they are 36, 37, they are married, they have kids, and they still play with me, because it's normal. For we grew up playing games. We grew up with a Nintendo in our hands, and that's something normal and natural for us. For example, every single and not it's not only video games. It's also board games and role playing games. For example, every single Sunday I meet up with my friends, not necessarily in person, but right now using Zoom meetings or Hangouts, and we play Dungeons and Dragons just because we're used to that. We've been playing that since high school, and we still play that. We are 36 years old, and we still play that. Some of my friends, they have wives, and the wives played with us. It's a different conception of what, for example, my mom grew up with. She was like, come on, you are 36, you have to think about work and nothing more. And I was like, well, I have to think about work, but I also have to think about kendo and my friends and my video games and whatever I want to do. There is no limit for me. So yeah, that's what means being a gamer. I mean, just keep doing what I've been doing my whole life. And of course, beside kendo, gaming, it really takes all the stress out of me.
So usually when we talk to like serious practitioners, there's usually the martial art, and then there's this side hobby that connects them to family and friends, something else that helps lighten the load when they don't when they need to get away from the stress of everything else. And then the third thing is usually food. So I was just wondering, what is your comfort food? What is the thing that you need to eat when you're like feeling down or something that makes you smile?
Well, first of all, I don't know if you know, but Peruvian food is amazing. It's world recognized as one of the best food in the world. I won't say the best, but one of the best, because we have a lot of mixture in our culture. It's not just this is Peruvian based. It's because of how Peru was created and how it's not very nice. But for example, in the 80s something, there were a lot of migration of Japanese people and Chinese people here to be slaves here in farms in the 80s, in the 80s something. And in the 90s, in the 18, no, it's not 80s, but 1800s. And in the 1900s, of course, that was abolished, but part of our court of our culture is the Japanese people that migrate to Peru, and the Chinese people that migrate to Peru, and the African descents that migrate to Peru. So we have a mixture here in Peru of cultures, and that helped to create a different cuisine for Peru. But my comfort food is burgers. I love burgers. that that is a guilty pleasure of mine.
What do you have on it? What's your burger? Is it just like a
My
fancy
burger
or
is a
just
very
like
traditional burger. Burger, some onions, some pickles, maybe bacon, cheese. That's it. That's perfection.
nice? Always go with the classics. You just need
Yes, of course.
it's all about the meat. You gotta
Yes,
get it
of
right.
course.
Good meat and good bread, and that's
And
the
that's
meat.
it. Yep.
So going back to something more back to like the Buddha related stuff. Do you have a quote or a proverb or a motto or something that you think about that in your practice or in your life?
Yes, and it's very oriented of what I choose to be my way of kendo, which is jodan wa ten no kurai hi no ikoi ni aru. I'm a jodan practitioner, so that phrase for me is how I do kendo, how I approach my kendo. No, I mean, for me, Jordan is the play is the position of the heavens of and I have to be a strong fire, and that's what keeps me going. And actually, it not only keeps me going, but helps me motivate everybody in the team to do the best and to improve and to try harder. Sometimes it's very hard to make them do that, but that's what I believe. That's what I had. That's how I practice my kendo. Like really strong. I really like really strong kendo, really hard kendo, but really smooth kendo also. I like to be really strong, but very smooth.
Could you
Very,
repeat that again? What was
yeah.
the in
The
English?
phrase is in Japanese is jodan wa ten no kurai, hi no ikyoi ni aru, which means it literally means jodan is a position of heavens, ten no kurai, and with the strength of the fire, hi no ikyoi ni aru.
Oh wow, nice. Okay, so this was an amazing interview. Thank you so much for sharing your story. It really gives us a glimpse of like what Peru Kendo was like when you first started and what it has become based on all these things that you've been able to capture and all these different people that have helped your country develop to where it is today. I would love to see like what happens in the next World Championship. If it doesn't happen next year, then maybe the year after that. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm expecting some good results. So to wrap this up, do you have anything in closing that or a message that you want to say to the audience, something that you just want to leave us with that you think about?
Well, everybody says this, but for me, it's really true. Kendo is a way to live your life. It's not just a sport. It's not just a martial art. For me, it's how I live my life, how I breathe every single breath I take, every single thing I do, not only in the dojo, but outside the dojo. My work, my friends, my family, everything is related to Kendo and what I've learned in Kendo and what I'm learning in Kendo, of course, because you never stop learning Kendo. Even the Hachidan says that I'm just starting doing Kendo, which is true, which I believe is also true. So Kendo is not only something you do. Kendo is part, an intrinsic part of your life. Is one of the most important and determined things that you do in your life because it changed how you approach life. It changed how you approach people. It changed how you approach the society and how you try to be better every single day, not only in Kendo, but in your life as a person.
Well, Martin, it doesn't matter how many times someone says that, that is so important reminder, something that we need to hear often. And coming from someone that really has lived that, it really shows us this impact and what it could mean for every single person. So thank you so much for all that you do for the Kendo community. I hope you well, and yeah, hopefully we can meet up sometime in the future.
Yes, that's a promise. I promise. If I can't go to Canada, we'll meet someday around the world.
Yes. Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much and have a great night.
Thank you, Patrick. It was amazing.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode because we have a lot more exciting conversations to share as we explore the world of the traditional Japanese martial arts. The Inside Look podcast is available on most common podcasting platforms and on YouTube. Remember to subscribe to not miss out on new interviews as they are posted. We're always looking for feedback to improve, so please write us a review or drop us a line at podcast@tokushikai.ca or on Facebook and Instagram at tokushikai.canada. Until next time, thanks for listening.